The cold night air bit sharply at Mark's skin as he stumbled through the dense forest, his breath coming out in ragged clouds. Moonlight filtered through the canopy, casting eerie shadows that danced with every gust of wind. He didn't know why he was out here, just that something had driven him, a strange pull he couldn't explain. Suddenly, a sharp, guttural cry shattered the silence. Mark froze, heart pounding. The sound wasn't human. It was desperate, painful, and raw. Driven by instinct, he pushed forward, the underbrush scraping his arms as he moved. Ahead, in a small clearing bathed in silver moonlight, he saw her. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, lithe, with skin that shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, gleamed with fear and pain. She crouched on the ground, clutching her side where blood stained the fabric of her clothing. Mark's instincts screamed to run, but something in her gaze rooted him to the spot. She was vulnerable, terrified, and alone. Without thinking, he dropped his jacket and stepped forward. "Hey, are you okay?" His voice was hoarse, uncertain. She looked up sharply, eyes wild. "No," she whispered in a voice that was strange, yet somehow familiar. Mark's heart skipped a beat. The wound on her side was deep, and the blood was dark, almost black. He tore his shirt, pressing it to the injury, but as he did, a sharp pain shot through his hand, as if the blood itself burned him. "Stay still," he urged. She tried to pull away, but her strength was fading fast. Mark realized the wound was more than a simple injury. It was fatal if untreated. Then, without warning, she gasped, eyes widening in shock. "Your blood! It's different." "What?" Mark asked, confused. She coughed violently, blood bubbling at her lips. "It's saving me." Mark stared in disbelief. He had no idea what she meant. He looked down at his hand, smeared with her dark blood, and suddenly felt dizzy. Minutes passed like hours. The woman's breathing steadied, color returning to her pale face. She looked at him with something between gratitude and disbelief. "You saved me," she said quietly. Mark nodded, still struggling to process everything. "Why?" he whispered. She shook her head, eyes flickering with pain and confusion. "I don't know." Suddenly, a distant sound broke the fragile silence, an unearthly hum growing louder. Mark's eyes darted toward the trees. Shadows moved quickly among them. "We have to move," she said urgently, struggling to stand. Mark helped her up, supporting her weight. The pain in her side seemed to lessen, but something else was changing. Her eyes glowed faintly now, an otherworldly light. As they hurried through the forest, Mark's mind raced. Who was she? What was she? A sudden rustle behind them made him spin around. Dark figures emerged, moving swiftly. They were humanoid, but with features twisted and alien. "Run!" the woman hissed. Mark broke into a sprint, adrenaline surging through him. Branches lashed at his face. His lungs burned, but he pushed on. The figures gained ground. Mark tripped, crashing to the ground. The woman paused, turning back. "Don't!" "Stop!" she urged fiercely. One of the pursuers leapt forward, but before he could reach her, Mark scrambled up and pushed the woman behind a fallen log. Without thinking, Mark raised his arm and threw a rock, hitting one pursuer in the head. The figure staggered but kept coming. Another pursuer grabbed Mark's ankle, dragging him toward the ground. The woman screamed, a sound unlike anything Mark had heard, piercing and filled with raw power. Suddenly, a shockwave burst from her. Knocking the pursuers back, Mark scrambled to his feet, breathless and shaken. "Come!" she urged. They fled deeper into the woods, the sounds of pursuit fading. Eventually, they reached a small clearing by a river. The woman collapsed, exhausted. Mark kneeled beside her. "What are you?" She looked at him, eyes full of pain and fear. "My people. I was hunted," she said. Mark felt a surge of protectiveness. "I'll help you." She nodded weakly. Hours passed. As dawn approached, Mark noticed something strange. Her body seemed to glow faintly. Her skin rippled subtly, and her breathing changed. "Something's happening," she whispered. Mark's mind reeled. What had he gotten himself into? Suddenly she grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "Your blood saved me," she said again. "But now it's changing me." Mark stared at their joined hands, dread and wonder swirling inside him. And then she looked up at him with eyes that held a secret, one that could change everything. Cliffhanger. The alien woman's body begins to transform in a way Mark cannot understand, hinting at an unimaginable change ahead. The pale light of dawn stretched across the horizon as Mark sat beside the alien woman, now resting quietly in the clearing. Her skin still shimmered faintly under the early morning sun, but something deeper had changed. The wound on her side had sealed, but the strange glow pulsed softly beneath her skin like a heartbeat. Mark watched her carefully. The forest around them was silent, as if holding its breath. "How do you feel?" he asked, voice low. She opened her eyes slowly, gaze meeting his. "Different," she whispered, "stronger, but unfamiliar." Mark nodded, unsure what to say. All he knew was that her life had somehow been saved by his blood, and now that miracle was becoming something neither of them could understand. For hours they stayed in the clearing. Mark scavenged water from the river and found some wild berries, careful to avoid anything toxic. The alien woman, who had introduced herself as Lyra only after much coaxing, said little, her eyes often distant. Mark tried to piece together who she was, but her answers were cryptic. "My people," she said once, "are not like humans. Our lives are bound by codes and bloodlines. But something about your blood, it's unlike anything I've known." Mark's thoughts raced. What did she mean? And why had she been hunted? Suddenly, a sharp tremor ran through Lyra's body. She gasped, clutching her abdomen. "What's wrong?" Mark asked, alarmed. "It's changing," she said, pain flickering in her eyes. "Inside, something is growing." Mark's heart skipped a beat. "Growing? What do you mean?" Lyra's voice was barely audible. "I think I'm pregnant." The word hung between them, impossible yet undeniable. Mark stared, struggling to grasp the reality. An alien pregnancy triggered by his blood? What kind of science or magic was this? "We need help," he said firmly. "We can't stay out here. People will come looking for you." She nodded, grateful yet fearful. The next days were a blur of caution and urgency. Mark used his phone to contact an old friend, Dr. Emily Carter, a biologist who specialized in rare species and had a knack for handling the unexplained. After hours of convincing, Emily agreed to meet them in a secluded location far from the city. When Emily arrived, she was shocked but professional. "This is incredible," she murmured, examining Lyra with a portable scanner. "Your physiology. It's unlike anything on Earth." Mark watched Emily carefully as she ran tests. "The changes in her body are accelerating," Emily said quietly. "The fetus, if we can call it that, is growing rapidly. But it's not purely alien or human. It's something new." Mark swallowed hard. "Is she going to be okay?" Emily hesitated. "We don't know. This kind of hybrid, it's never been documented." Lyra looked at Mark with a mixture of hope and fear. "Your blood saved me, but it also began this. What will happen next?" Mark squeezed her hand. "We'll figure it out, together." But the calm was deceptive. That night, Mark was jolted awake by a noise outside the safe house. He peered through the window to see shadowy figures moving stealthily in the dark. "Lyra, wake up," he whispered urgently. Lyra's eyes snapped open, alert and tense. "They've found us," she said. Mark grabbed his phone to call Emily, but the signal was gone. The figures moved closer, and Mark felt a cold dread. Suddenly a window shattered, and a group of armed men burst in. "Stay back!" Mark shouted, trying to shield Lyra. The men advanced, but Lyra stepped forward, her body glowing faintly. "Stop!" she commanded, voice firm and commanding. The men hesitated, then retreated, vanishing as quickly as they had come. Mark's heart pounded. Who were they? Lyra's face was grim. Hunters. My people sent them. Why? Mark asked. Because of what? Is growing inside me, she said. They fear it. The following days were tense. Mark, Lyra, and Emily worked desperately to understand the pregnancy. Emily's lab results revealed strange phenomena. The hybrid fetus was producing energy, like a living power source. Mark watched Lyra closely as her body changed. She grew stronger, but also more vulnerable in ways he didn't expect. Her emotions surged unpredictably, fear, anger, hope, and love intertwined. One evening, as they sat by the window, Lyra turned to Mark. Do you know what this means? She asked softly. Mark shook his head. It means the future of both our worlds is tied to this child, she said. Mark swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Suddenly, a sharp pain seized Lyra's abdomen. She gasped, clutching him. Mark caught her, panic rising. We need to get help, he said, already dialing Emily. But before he could speak, the power went out. Darkness enveloped them. And then, through the silence, a chilling voice whispered from the shadows. You cannot hide from your fate. Cliffhanger. The hunters have found them, and Lyra's mysterious pregnancy holds a secret that could change everything. But danger closes in as unknown enemies approach. Darkness swallowed the room as the power flickered out. Mark's heart thudded loudly in his chest. Lyra's breathing was shallow, her body trembling in his arms. The chilling voice that echoed in the silence seemed to seep from the very walls, an unseen menace that tightened around them. You cannot hide from your fate. Mark's grip tightened around Lyra, desperation fueling his next move. He fumbled for his phone, but it was dead. No signal, no power, no hope for a quick call to Emily. Lyra, Mark whispered, eyes scanning. The dark corners of the room. Who was that? Who are these people? Lyra's eyes reflected the faint moonlight as she struggled to sit up, wincing in pain. They're from my world, the hunters. They want to take the child, to control it. Mark's mind reeled. Control it. What was so important about the child growing inside her? We can't let them, Mark said firmly. We'll fight if we have to. Lyra shook her head weakly. They are stronger than us. They have weapons and knowledge far beyond Earth's technology. Outside, the faint crunch of footsteps approached. Mark froze, listening. His instincts screamed to hide. But there was nowhere to run. The door burst open. A figure stepped inside, a man cloaked in shadows, his eyes glowing faintly with an unearthly light. His presence filled the room with cold authority. Lyra, the man said, voice calm, but filled with menace. You've brought shame upon our people. This abomination inside you must be destroyed. Mark stepped protectively in front of Lyra. She's carrying a life, a new beginning. You have no right to decide her fate. The man's eyes flicked to Mark, assessing. You are human. Your blood has tainted her. This child is an abomination to our laws. Abomination or not, it's alive, Mark said, voice steady despite the fear rising within. The man sneered. You don't understand what you've done. This child could be a weapon or a threat to all our worlds. Lyra's voice broke through, trembling but resolute. It's more than that. It's hope. The man's expression darkened. Hope is a dangerous thing. Suddenly, the room shook violently as an explosion rocked the building. Dust and debris rained down. Mark stumbled, pulling Lyra down with him. Outside, gunfire erupted. Mark's mind raced. They were under attack. Emily! He shouted, struggling to his feet. Where is she? Lyra coughed, her hand clutching her abdomen. The lab! We need to get to her. Together they scrambled through the rubble, escaping into the night. The forest that had once seemed so peaceful now felt like a trap, shadows lurking with every step. Emily's voice crackled through a hidden radio Mark had grabbed in the chaos. Mark! You need to get to the old safe house on Ridgeway Road. I've sent coordinates. Mark didn't hesitate. We're coming. The journey was perilous. Every rustle in the bushes, every distant shout sent waves of adrenaline through them. As they reached the safe house, Emily was waiting, her face grim. They're relentless, she said. They know about the pregnancy and want to harness its power. Mark looked at Lyra, who now seemed weaker, the pain more frequent. Is she going to survive this? Mark asked, desperation clear. Emily hesitated. I don't know. The hybrid child is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's changing her, both physically and mentally. Lyra nodded. It's not just a baby, it's something bigger. Mark swallowed hard. Bigger how? Before Lyra could answer, the safe house's walls trembled. A sharp pulse of energy flooded the room. Mark's skin prickled. The child inside Lyra was reacting, sending out a signal, a beacon. Suddenly, the doors blew open. This time, the attackers weren't alone. Alien warriors, clad in armor that shimmered like liquid metal, strode inside. Their leader, a woman with fierce eyes and an aura of command, raised a hand. Enough, she said. We come as allies. Mark's jaw dropped. Allies? After everything? The armored woman's gaze softened as she looked at Lyra. We want to protect the child? Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Who are you? We are the Guardians, the woman said. We've been watching your world. This child is the key to the future, for humans and aliens alike. Mark felt a flicker of hope amid the chaos. The Guardians revealed a secret. Lyra's people were divided between the hunters who sought control and destruction and the Guardians who believed in coexistence. This child, the Guardian explained, represents a new era, a union of two species that could heal old wounds and bring peace. Mark looked at Lyra, his heart pounding. The stakes were higher than ever, but with that hope came a warning. The hunters will not stop, the Guardian said. You must protect her at all costs. Mark nodded, resolve hardening. We will. But as the night deepened, Mark knew. This was only the beginning. Lyra's pregnancy was more than a miracle. It was a battleground, and the shadows of the past were closing in fast. Cliffhanger. The hunters and the Guardians collide over Lyra's child, but new allies emerge with revelations that change everything. Yet danger looms, and the battle for the future intensifies. The safe house had become their fortress, a fragile sanctuary amid a world on the brink of chaos. Outside, the night air was thick with tension, both from the unseen hunters still lurking and from the uncertainty that clawed at Mark's every thought. Lyra lay on a makeshift bed, her face pale but calm. The child growing inside her had already begun to change everything, not just for her, but for the future of both their worlds. Mark sat beside her, holding her hand, trying to absorb the whirlwind of revelations from the Guardians. We have to understand what this child really is, Mark said quietly. Emily, still scanning through data on her tablet, looked up. According to the Guardians, this hybrid has genetic codes from both species. It's a combination that's never happened before, and it's evolving. How? Mark asked, voice tight. The Guardian leader, whose name was Kayla, stepped forward. It's more than evolution. The child's DNA is actively adapting. It can tap into abilities neither species fully understands yet. Lyra's hand trembled. I can feel it. Sometimes I sense things, visions, emotions not my own. It's like the child is trying to communicate. Mark's eyes met hers. Are you scared? Lyra shook her head faintly. No, but it's overwhelming, and it's changing me. Kyla nodded. The Guardians have seen this before, long ago. When our species first encountered humans, there were hybrids, children of prophecy. They were feared, hunted. Mark's jaw clenched. So that's why the hunters want to destroy the child? Exactly, Kayla said. They believe the child threatens their power, but the child could be the key to ending centuries of war. Emily interjected, eyes sharp. "We need to analyze the child's genetics, understand what it can do. If we can unlock its secrets, maybe we can find a way to protect it." Mark glanced at Lyra, whose breathing was shallow but steady. Suddenly the lights flickered. The safe house's power grid was failing again. Kayla's eyes narrowed. "They're here!" The hunters had found them. Mark stood up, heart pounding. "We have to move, now!" Emily gathered her equipment while Kayla directed the Guardians to prepare defenses. Lyra struggled to sit up, pain etching her face. "I can't run like this." Mark lifted her carefully. "We'll protect you, no matter what." They moved through a hidden passage behind the safe house, a tunnel that Kyla's people had carved out long ago. As they walked, Kyla explained more about the ancient war between their species. "Our ancestors fought over resources and dominance. Humans were seen as primitive, but your spirit was unbreakable. Some of our kind wanted peace, others wanted control." Mark listened, absorbing the weight of a history he never knew existed. Lyra rested her head against Mark's shoulder, her breathing uneven. Suddenly the tunnel shuddered violently. Explosions rocked the walls. "They're breaching the tunnel," Kayla shouted. Mark gritted his teeth, pushing forward. The child inside Lyra pulsed with energy, a low hum filling the air. They reached a chamber deep underground, a hidden sanctuary filled with advanced technology, glowing softly in the dim light. "This is the sanctuary," Kayla said, "a place where we can study and protect the child." Emily hurried to set up her equipment, while Kayla's guardians fortified the entrances. Mark helped Lyra lie down, watching as she closed her eyes, struggling with the pain. Suddenly, Lyra's body convulsed. A brilliant light burst from her abdomen, filling the chamber. Mark shielded his eyes as the light coalesced into a shimmering figure, a holographic image of a woman, ethereal and radiant. The figure spoke, her voice melodic but urgent. "Child of two worlds, you carry the future. The choices you make will determine the fate of many." Mark stared in awe. "What is this?" Kayla explained. "This is a message from the ancients, our predecessors who foresaw this moment. The hologram showed visions, worlds torn by war, then healing through unity. But darkness still threatens," the figure warned. "The hunters seek to control or destroy. You must protect the child. Only through trust and courage can a new path emerge." Lyra opened her eyes, tears streaming down. "The child is listening. We're not alone." Mark squeezed her hand. "We'll face whatever comes, together." Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the sanctuary. The hunters were launching a full assault. Kayla raised her weapon, a blade that shimmered with energy. "Prepare for battle." Mark looked around at their small group, humans and guardians united by a fragile hope. The chamber's walls lit up with defensive shields. Battle was beginning. Outside, the hunters' forces surged forward, relentless and brutal. But the Guardians fought fiercely, their technology and combat skills pushing back the attackers. Mark joined the fray, fighting alongside Emily and Kayla. Lyra, though weak, focused on the child inside her, channeling its energy. The child unleashed, a pulse of power, stunning the hunters and turning the tide. But the cost was high. Kayla was wounded, and Emily's equipment was damaged. Mark knew they couldn't hold forever. "We need to escape," he shouted. Kayla nodded, her voice strained. "There's another exit. Follow me." They fled through a secret passage, emerging into a dense forest. Mark looked back to see the sanctuary engulfed in flames. "We lost the sanctuary," Emily said, breathless. "But not the child," Lyra whispered. Mark pulled her close. "We'll find another way. We have to." The forest was dark and silent, shadows stretching like fingers, but Mark felt something new. Hope. The child was more than a weapon or a threat. It was a symbol of change, a bridge between two worlds, and the fight for its future was just beginning. Cliffhanger. The sanctuary falls. The hunters press their attack, but a mysterious message from ancient ancestors offers hope. The battle for the child's survival intensifies as Mark, Lyra, and their allies face impossible odds. The dense forest around them seemed to close in, the night air thick with tension and the scent of burning wood far behind them. Mark's heart pounded fiercely, not just from the exertion, but from the weight of the responsibility that now rested on their shoulders. The sanctuary was lost. The Guardian's home, the place that held so much hope for the future of the child, was now reduced to ash. Lyra clung weakly to Mark, her body drained, but her spirit unbroken. The child inside her pulsed with a strange warmth, as if sensing the dangers ahead and responding with its own fierce determination. Kayla limped along beside them, her face grim but resolute. "They'll keep coming," she said. "The hunters will stop at nothing." Emily, ever the pragmatist, checked the damaged equipment she managed to salvage. "We're blind without the sanctuary's tech, but the data we saved from the Ancient's message could help us." Mark looked at them all and realized just how fragile their alliance was. Two species, once enemies, now bound together by something far greater than their past conflicts. "We need shelter, a new plan," Mark said. "And we need to understand what this child truly is." Kayla nodded. "The Ancients spoke of a place beyond the stars, called the Nexus. It's where our kind once united in peace. Maybe that's where we must go." Emily frowned. "A mythical place. How do we even get there?" Lyra opened her eyes, now glowing faintly. I think the child knows." Mark watched her carefully. "What do you mean?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Sometimes I see visions, stars, constellations moving. It's like a map. The child is guiding me." The forest around them suddenly felt alive, as if responding to the child's silent call. Kayla raised her voice. "We can't stay here. The hunters will track us. If the child is the key, they will come after us again." Mark tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. "Then we leave at dawn." The hours crawled by in tense silence, the group huddled in a shallow cave. The flicker of a small fire illuminated their weary faces. Emily examined the data from the Ancients, again searching for clues. "The Nexus isn't just a place. It's a network, a convergence of knowledge and power. If we can reach it, we might unlock the child's potential and broker a peace." Mark stared at the glowing screen. "But how do we get there? Space travel? They'll hunt us in space too." Kayla's eyes hardened. "The Guardians have old ships, hidden. We can find one, but it's risky. The hunters control much of space." Lyra shifted uncomfortably. "I can feel the child, stronger now. It's like a heartbeat within me, urging us forward." Mark looked at her with renewed determination. "Then we don't have a choice." At first light, they slipped through the forest toward the ruins of an ancient Guardian outpost Kayla knew well. It was a place forgotten by most, hidden beneath centuries of vines and rubble. The air grew electric as they neared it. Lyra's breathing hitched. Inside the outpost, they discovered an old starship, dusty but intact. Kayla grinned despite her injuries. "This is our ticket." Emily worked quickly to repair the ship's systems, using her salvage tech and the data from the Ancients. Mark helped Lyra settle into the cabin, trying to soothe her growing discomfort. As the ship hummed to life, Lyra's eyes flashed again. "The child is waking." Suddenly, alarms blared. "They found us," Kayla said. Drawing her weapon, Mark braced himself as the ship began to lift off, engines roaring to life. Outside, dark hunter ships emerged from the treetops like vultures. The chase through space was brutal. The Guardian ship was old, slow, but nimble enough to weave through asteroid fields and debris. Mark sat at the navigation controls, sweat beading on his forehead. Lyra lay in the medical bay, the child's energy causing strange phenomena, a shimmering glow, faint whispers only she could hear. Emily monitored the hunter ships on the radar. "They're closing in." If they catch us, it's over. Kayla readied herself for a fight. We'll buy you time. The hunters fired, lasers slicing the void. Suddenly, the ship jolted violently. An impact. We've been hit, Emily shouted. The ship's systems flickered dangerously. Mark fought to stabilize the controls. Hold on! In the midst of chaos, Lyra's eyes opened wide. The child's energy surged, filling the ship with a radiant light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The light washed over the damaged systems, and to their shock, the ship's engines roared back to full power. Emily gasped. The child! It's repairing the ship! Mark stared in disbelief. This power, it's beyond anything we imagined, Kayla smiled faintly. The prophecy was true. Hours later, the hunters gave up the chase, retreating into the black void. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, but the journey was far from over. Emily approached Mark. The data points to the Nexus's location, on a distant planet, called Elysium Prime, Kayla nodded. If we can reach it, we can unlock the child's potential and end this war. Mark looked at Lyra, whose breathing was calmer now. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, he said softly. We're fighting for the future. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, a new resolve settled over them. But unknown to them, deep in the Hunter command ship, a shadowy figure watched the fleeing Guardians on a massive screen. A slow smile spread across the figure's face. The child will be mine, the voice hissed. No one will stop the reckoning. Cliffhanger. The Guardians escape a brutal space chase thanks to the child's mysterious powers. The next destination is the fabled Nexus, but a deadly hunter leader has set their sights on capturing the child, promising an even greater threat ahead. The Guardian's ship, battered yet alive, sliced through the darkness of hyperspace toward Elysium Prime, the legendary Nexus. Mark sat by Lyra, whose breathing was calm but whose eyes now glowed faintly with an otherworldly light. The child inside her was no longer just a mystery. It was becoming a force that might change the universe forever. Kayla and Emily worked tirelessly to keep the ship functioning. Every moment counted. The hunter's shadow lingered, their relentless pursuit a chilling reminder that the fate of the child would decide more than just their lives. As they exited hyperspace, the planet below unfolded like a gem. Lush forests, towering crystal mountains, and vast cities glowing with ancient technology. Elysium Prime was more than a myth. It was a sanctuary of knowledge and peace, a cradle of hope built by the ancients to unite warring species. Landing was smooth, and the group stepped out into a world that felt both alien and welcoming. The air vibrated with quiet energy, humming. With the pulse of long-forgotten power, they approached a towering temple covered with glowing runes, symbols of unity and life. Lyra's steps grew stronger, her hands caressing the runes as if remembering something ancient and sacred. This is where the child must awaken fully, Kayla said, her voice reverent. Emily set up their equipment, scanning the temple for any sign of danger or traps. The technology here is unlike anything I've seen. Mark helped Lyra inside, the child's warmth radiating through her. Suddenly, the runes flared with light, bathing the room in brilliant azure hues. The child stirred within Lyra, its energy synchronizing with the temple's heartbeat. At that moment, a deafening roar echoed outside. The hunters had tracked them again, this time with an armada ready to strike. Mark's heart sank, but Lyra's gaze was calm. "This is it," she whispered. "The child will decide." The Guardians and their allies prepared for battle, but the fight never came. Instead, the temple itself responded. Walls shimmered, revealing protective shields and advanced defenses. The hunters' weapons malfunctioned, their ships disabled by an unseen force. One by one, the aggressors fell silent, retreating as if the planet itself repelled them. Inside the temple, the child's energy reached a crescendo. Lyra's body floated above the ground, glowing with radiant light. Her eyes shone with the wisdom of ages. The child spoke, not in words, but in emotions and visions. Mark and the others saw flashes of history, ancient wars, alliances forged, and a future where humans and aliens lived in harmony. The child's message was clear. It was not a weapon, but a bridge. Tears welled in Mark's eyes as he understood the profound truth. This child symbolized hope, a new beginning for all species, a chance to end cycles of hatred and fear. Kayla stepped forward, bowing deeply. "We will protect this future," Emily smiled through tears, "and learn from it." Lyra, now fully transformed, smiled at Mark. "Together, we will build a new world." Days passed as the Guardians shared the Nexus's knowledge with their allies. Old enemies laid down arms, inspired by the child's vision. The Hunter's threat faded, replaced by tentative hope and fragile peace talks. Mark and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the awakening world. "Do you think we can truly change everything?" Mark asked. Lyra nodded, her hand on her belly. "We already have." As the sun rose over Elysium Prime, the child's heartbeat echoed in every heart, a reminder that humanity's blood had not just saved a life, but had sparked a revolution. Final lesson: in a universe divided by fear and misunderstanding, true strength lies not in domination or destruction, but in empathy, unity, and the courage to embrace the unknown. Humanity's greatest power is its capacity to love, to heal, and to transform conflict into connection. The child within Lyra is more than a miracle. It is a beacon of hope for all beings. It teaches us that even in the darkest moments, life finds a way to light the path forward. The end.